Hello and welcome back to the MMA India show. This is your host Praveen Dabas, and we are going to join our fellow Indian MMA guru Akhilesh Ganuvarapu to interview two really interesting, exciting fighters. One of whom is Tonya Evinger, the current bantamweight champion at Invicta. She had her loss overturned and therefore kept her belt. We spoke to her. You will be seeing that interview first. And then we spoke to UFC legend Gary Goodridge, an amazing guy, one of the veterans of the UFC and other fight promotions, who is unfortunately going through some not so good health right now, but we were able to speak to him. Interesting trivia. He acted with Akshay Kumar in two Hindi films, Barood, and the other one he said was Khiladi Se Khiladi or something. So that's an interesting trivia. We chatted with him after that, and then me and Akhilesh will be giving our preview, our lowdown on UFC Sacramento, which has some great fights, including Uriah Faber's last fight. You saw his exclusive interview with us just a couple of days ago. So let's start with Tonya Evinger interview. Hi, this is Praveen, and thanks for making time for us on the MMA India show.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So, shall we get started?
Yeah, let's go.
So, first of all, of course, you know the fight with Yana Kunitskaya. There's been a lot of talk on that, and you've probably spoken a lot about it. We're glad that your stand has been vindicated, and the loss was overturned to a no contest, as it should have been. So, do you want to elaborate on that a little more for the Indian fans?
On just what happened?
Yeah, on what happened and then the process after that.
Well, just in the fight, I obviously I knew what was going on, so I knew I was doing something legal and stuff. So it went down really crazy, and I remember right after the fight, right after I submitted. Obviously, I submitted. I didn't have no choice. My arm was going to get broke, but the position was just given. As soon as I was able to position, I couldn't use that leverage anymore, so I had to give it up. And I just didn't know anybody seen it. I was like, oh my god, like nobody's seen this. You don't get stuff like this overturned. Like it's been a headache, man. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew I needed to file, and the process took like 2 weeks is what they told me, but it went through pretty fast. So I know they had the referee mic'd up, and they had all the angles and stuff from the fight, so they had all the evidence they needed to.
Right. Now, I also wanted to ask you about that, because what was telecasted, the camera was on the opposite side, so the fans could not see what was going on because the submission was on the other side of the cage. So what happened? What did the referee come and tell you? Because looking at the fight, it was evident that there was nothing illegal going on. You just had your foot on the face. You were not stomping. You're not kicking. So what did the referee come and tell you? What happened at that point?
Well, I always get my arm back. I go knee on face, and I get my elbow out, and then I'll stand up to foot on face. So, I mean, you can obviously see in the pictures when my knee's on the face, my arm's in a little bit, that's where I'm getting my arm out. And then once I go foot to face, like usually my elbow's out, I'm just got to get my hand free. But he told me it was illegal to get my foot off the face, and I argued back with him, like, this ain't illegal, and he came around to my right side, he said it again, and then he actually touched me, like, like he was going to split us up or like physically maybe just kind of pull me off her face, I guess, or something, instead of, like if you grab the cage, you'd slap her hand away or something. So I didn't really know what he was going to do, but obviously, we had to listen to the ref. So it was kind of a messed up situation. It just, I don't know. I mean, it happened so fast, but it was like slow motion to me. I knew what I was doing was right. I knew the position I had was right. The leverage I had was right. But as soon as I had to move my foot, I mean, she got an extra 4 or 5 inches just from bridging on her head, so that's all she needed to get past my elbow.
Right. And usually, things like these are tricky, because most of the times you even see that these don't get turned over. The results, they stay the same most of the times. And the fact that, it was difficult for even us to look at what happened, what exactly transpired on the other side. What did the Missouri Athletic Commission tell you when you first approached them? What was the process?
I just had to write out some statements, and I know they had to interview the referee and get all the footage from all the different angles. It's great that it's on such a big show that it got the coverage it did to actually be able to get overturned, because like you said, it doesn't ever happen. So the fact that it has, I mean, that's awesome for the sport in general. The fighters, we've always had to pay fines and get suspended and kind of be responsible for our actions and our mess ups. So I think then the promoters themselves have had to do that by their contracts and stuff, and the commission will take their license away and stuff like that. So now it's only right, with our sport growing so much, that we would have a commission have to kind of walk that same line. So it gets rid of the mistakes that we're having and using the same refs or the same judges or having the same issues that you shouldn't be having. You're dealing with people's careers now instead of just a hobby on the side. I mean, these are real people's careers, so it's a messy situation. But when I originally approached them, I knew they got 30 days to write me back or whatever, and I just submitted all the information I could, and they got back to me pretty fast, and I'm happy it went that way. I want that fight back, and hopefully get a rematch and do whatever we have to do.
So that was going to be my next question. So you have asked for a rematch.
Oh, absolutely. I asked for a rematch that night. I knew what happened. I was just so devastated. I didn't think it'd ever get overturned. I mean, you never see it. So what am I supposed to think? So it was a little weird, but I'm happy. I'm so happy.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah, you also mentioned, to me that Shannon did not tell you, if you're gonna get a rematch after your fight, what was happening backstage. So, what did Shannon tell you? Did Julie come to you? Caitlin come to you? What happened backstage?
Nobody really talked to me. I mean, they came and paid me, and then I went to Shannon, and I seen her on the way out, and I asked for a rematch. And originally she said that I have to wait for Yana to defend her title, and then I guess I can get a rematch with her. But I tried to explain what happened, but she didn't see the fight, I guess, or she was up close and didn't see exactly how I guess it went down. She didn't know that I actually tapped or that what had happened. I guess she saw the angle from what was going on my side, and you never see rulings like this. So there's nothing. I mean, everybody is kind of on the edge. We have to just kind of wait and see what the commission says. It's amazing, stressful situation, and I think that we've seen so many fights that have been messed up from stuff like this. I think it's just about time, so.
Right, and even when the fight was going on, you could hear Julie Casey saying, that's not illegal, it's legal. While DeSantis said, you know what, no, that's illegal. So can you probably see the referee's point of view and say maybe we could give him a benefit of the doubt, or these the referees need to know what the rules are. So what is your take on that situation?
I definitely think the mistakes are made, and obviously the sport is changing a lot. So rules, I mean, they just came up with a whole new set of rules for the unified rules anyway. So, I think that the times are changing and stuff. So, maybe you made a mistake and whatnot, but I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. These kind of regulations and stuff, or standards that can be met to make sure everybody's on the same page. That'd be good.
Right.
Now, moving away from this and going back a little, you changed camps in 2013. So how hard is it to, leave an old team and move to a new team? How hard is it to adjust? What's the process like? First of all, having to mentally be ready to move away. That must be a big step.
I think that a lot of people have a hard time leaving their gyms, but I don't feel like I belong to any one gym, and I'm not a certain gym's fighter or this or that. You know, I have gyms where I train. I put all those gyms on my banners, and I have training partners and stuff. But you know, I cross train everywhere. I go to every gym I can train with. I train with everybody I can, and you know, it just comes down to like trying to work every angle and see every angle of the sport and grow. And you know, everybody's coming up with new stuff. So just to stay on top of the game, you have to cross train. So you know, I jump around and I move all over the country. So I just find gyms where I'm going, and everybody kind of understands that about me and respects me enough to let me do that. So I like where I'm at right now, though. So I'm having fun, and I like my coaches and the guys I train with. So we're winning. I'll stay here for a while.
Great. Now, sorry. Go ahead, Akhilesh.
Yeah, so the last time we had a conversation, you told me, you know what, I want to go down to 125, win the title. I am even, up to going back to 145 to win the strap there. So does this fight that happened change all of those dynamics?
I mean, obviously, I want to beat this girl up. I mean, so this is my priority. I definitely want this fight back and to, I guess, just prove a point to all the haters. So, you know, I don't know. I want this fight, so I want to fight in January if they'll put me on, you know. I just wait and see what Shannon says and what Invicta says, and it's a hurry up and wait kind of thing. So I'm just going to get back in camp and start training again, and hopefully they call me and have me on the camera.
Right, and I asked you this the last time as well, and it's funny because you have certain organizations which give you 8 weeks notice, certain organizations that give you 12 weeks notice, so that you know when the fight is. You can go through an entire camp, have enough time to cut weight if you're a bigger fighter. You know, when does Invicta normally get in touch with you saying, you know what, your fight is coming up?
I think each fight's different. I think obviously the main event is a little thought out, you know, and that's them fighters know a little bit of ways out. But I mean, I think Invicta's a growing, and I think that they're kind of starting to catch some momentum and have more shows and stuff. So I think they're playing a little catch up right now, and we're getting a little shorter notice. But you know, I think we average about 7 or 8 weeks, maybe.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a lot of stuff that happens and people get pulled off and replaced last minute. So some of them are short notice, but you know, everybody's got a decent amount, and you can get a camp in for sure.
Okay.
Now, you of course have heard of the Fighters Association, which has been made recently, and there are a couple of other, if we want to call them associations or unions. What's your opinion of them, and are you planning on joining, or have you already joined the association, or what are your plans and views on the same?
Well, obviously, I don't think it pertains to anybody outside UFC. So I think it's only for the UFC fighters, and Invicta.
So
we aren't.
We
aren't. No, Bellator, Invicta, WSOF. None of us have to or have any. I mean, they'll break us. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of them smaller promotions will be able to stay alive. But I mean, Bellator. I mean, I think that Bellator ain't getting like jacked just because of Romney or whatever his name is. So, yeah. But I don't know. I guess it's just for UFC fighters.
But do you feel the need for an association?
I haven't heard much about it, or I don't know a lot about it. So.
But what's your views on an association, a fighters association? Anyway, do you feel the need for it, for fighters to band together for better deals?
Yeah, I do. But I mean, it's just the sport is not like, there's not like, no way we can have one set standard like just like this. Like it's just pertaining to UFC right now, because I just don't think that it can like cover like Invicta and all these other promotions that are a little bit smaller yet. So yeah, I see it happening. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. I think these guys will take all the heat from it and all the hate and stuff, and then something will come along behind them and actually succeed. So.
Right, and the last time I talked to you, I also asked you about UFC. The whole Sean Shelby. So I know that the friction between you, for some reason, Now, last night we also heard about Chris Cyborg and what is happening with her. And Dana White came on the Unfiltered podcast and said, you know what, I offered the fight, but she did not take it. So what do you make of the whole situation around Chris Cyborg? Has she made a wrong decision in going to UFC from Invicta?
I mean, she's been in UFC the whole time she's been fighting for Invicta, all them times, so she's been signed with UFC and UFC's been paying her bills. So I don't think it would have mattered if she would have went to UFC or stayed in Invicta, but I think that there's more money in the big shows for the UFC. So I mean, I think if she was looking for a bigger payday, that's where she'd have to go. But I don't know. I don't know what. I just seen an article tonight. I didn't actually read it about her turning down two fights. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. I haven't read anything up on it. I just noticed it. I've been working all day, so you guys know the news before me.
All right.
Now, getting back to the refereeing a bit, what steps would you take if you could, if it was in your hands, to ensure better refereeing and also judging in fights? Because a lot of times, of course, we've seen even recently, there have been fights which could have swung either way, and a lot of fighters and promotional owners are not happy with the way the refereeing, the judging has gone sometimes.
I just think it should be like at least some kind of like standards or some kind of test, like any other sport. I mean, USA Wrestling, to be a coach, you have to get, your credentials and stuff. You have to take tests and stuff. So, I mean, I don't know if they do it already, so I can't really say like what they need to do because I don't even know what they do. But I would say just something like that, because we know some states don't even have commissions yet. So, I mean, they're not. I mean, our sport ain't that big yet. It's just we got a little room to grow, but I think definitely there needs to be some kind of standard. If there's some kind of standard in like the ruling in general, then there should be some kind of standard testing in the ruling at least. Or at least how to judge, because we still got them old school judges or boxers or they're wrestlers, and they're just so favoritism, man.
Now, can you tell us a little about your strategy before a fight when you're facing an opponent? You watch videos. How do you plan? Do you change your strategy, according to the opponent? How's that process for you?
I'll watch a little bit of video, but I think just kind of to see their pace, maybe to see a couple things they do. But I don't watch a lot of video, and I don't really change my training at all. I still am the same. I feel like I'm going to be an offensive fighter anyway, so I always train offensive, and then I will train a little bit into my defense just off of some of her techniques or something she does. I'll train a little defense off that, but I usually won't change all my training around or train some specific way or anything. I definitely feel like I'm dominant in a fight, and I plan on being dominant, so that's the way I want to be ready.
Right now, just elaborating on that question, your fight against Yana, you immediately went for a takedown, right out of the gate. So, what was your game plan going into the fight? Because as we previously discussed, Yana was an unknown coming into the fight.
Yeah, no, I actually stepped in. I was going to throw a right hand, and I don't know, she just covered. I saw her cover her head up, and she leaned back with that knee out. So I didn't actually go in for a takedown. It just was right there, and it's just natural for me to reach down and grab it if you put it in my face. So I definitely wasn't looking for that right off the bat. I was going to stand for a little bit, but it just happened so fast, Took it.
Right, and what did you make of, because you told me that you watched some of Yana's videos. Now, rematch is inevitable, either it's going to be in January or the next show in March. So what do you think of Yana as a competitor? Because you were on a winning streak. You were on 9 straight, winning streak. So what did you make of Yana as an opponent? What are your thoughts about her?
Well, I didn't really think that we fought long enough to actually have a really good opinion. You know what I mean? I definitely didn't think that anything like this was going to happen. It's just a sucky situation on both ends. She comes in here and she thinks she wins, and I know that I was out of a position that was dangerous. So I I can see like her side of it, but man, there's a lot on the line. This is a world title. This is like a huge fight that meant more than just me walking away and saying, oh well, like, and people are talking about me whining about it, but man, this is my career. Like I said, this is a career we're talking about. Like, no way am I going to get stripped of my like stuff because a referee didn't know the rules or whatever. So I think that it happened the way it needed to happen. It went no contest, and I'm thankful for that. And glad that the commission could step up and actually, show fault and change something like that and make a change in the sport too. So sucks it's on our head in our fight, but I mean, oh well, man, she's gonna get another payday, so we're gonna do it again.
So I'm going to jump in with a question from a fan of yours called Harsh Bavaskar. Now, his question is, what are your thoughts on steroid use in MMA, and do you think it has become an epidemic in the sport?
No, I don't think many people are using steroids anymore. I think that's crazy. Maybe PEDs, I guess, on that end. I would say, I don't know about steroids, but people are using a lot of weight cutting.
Pills?
Like Lasix and stuff like that. They're doing a lot of water for like weight cutting and stuff. But other than that, I don't know. I don't see too many people getting suspended from PEDs and stuff anymore. Not a lot, anyways.
Right, and it's also interesting because I asked Shannon the same question a couple of months ago, and she said, we do all the testings that the State Athletic Commission asked of us to. So, I mean, now we've known for some time that the athletic commissions don't have a very comprehensive testing. Since UFC brought in USADA has a more comprehensive testing. So, what is your take on a company bringing in one of the bigger testing agencies? Do you think that's needed for every promotion in the sport?
I think it should be done. Personally, I think that blood work should be done on every fighter that fights. I think that there's certain medicals that need to be done. I mean, we're talking about people's safety here, so I think there's certain steps that need to be taken, but they aren't yet. So, I mean, I don't know. I always think that testing should be done, but I know on certain levels the promotion has to pay for it, and it's really expensive in certain states and stuff. So I think that's what it comes down to, and the commission doesn't want to pay for nothing. So, it's still about the money at the end of the day. So I would like to get tested every fight because I'm always ready to be tested. Like, I eat clean, everything. I don't take supplements. I don't do anything. And man, sometimes I look at my opponents and I'm like, what? There's no way you look like that. Jeez.
Now, have you ever thought about life after fighting and what you would want to do? Of course, you still have a long career ahead of you, but after that, do you have plans of you want to stay with the sport, open an academy? What are your plans, or if you have any, if you've thought about it at all, that is?
Yeah, I definitely probably stay in the sport, but I'd like to ride around in a wheelchair, not move my arms and legs for a long time. Get real fat. Coach from the wheelchair and shit, like that kind of coach in the gym. I don't make it to the fights, but I'm in the gym. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I have to stay around the gym a little bit because, man, I'm gonna get fat for real. So I'd like to do that a little bit, and I don't know. Or maybe it's time to grow up and get a real job. Who knows? I got to do something with the fight to get rich here. This is getting crazy.
A lot of fighters, of course, get hired by the promotion in executive jobs. Is that something you would? I know we're jumping the gun here because you have a long career ahead, but just has that ever
work for promotion? Yeah, definitely. Okay. I'd like to have my own promotion, but a little bit down the road and work in progress.
Great. Well, we'll treat that as breaking news then.
Oh, God. Yeah. I think everybody knows. I've put it online a million times.
Oh, okay. Then maybe not.
Yeah.
Right. And, again, going back to our previous conversation, you said once again, you're in your mid-30s. You don't have, like, a decade in front. What do you think is the light at the end of the tunnel? What is left for you? Because you told me, you're not going to obviously go to UFC and ask them to take you. That's not going to happen. So what is the end game for you?
I mean, I guess I'm just gonna keep going till like somebody beats the shit out of me, like enough to where I don't want it to happen again. Like you gotta really do it. So I don't know. I think I got a while, and then I don't know. I don't know. I guess I don't know. If they give me an offer or something, I'm not saying I would never go or anything. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I just, you know, you can only wait so long, or I guess I just will keep on waiting and fighting for Invicta. So I'm happy. I'm just gonna chill until something else comes along and bigger, better. Try to make some money.
And what would your advice be to upcoming UFC fighters? Sorry, not UFC, sorry, MMA fighters. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. It's growing really at a quick pace in India as well. There's a lot of upcoming fighters in India, both amateur and professional. What would your advice be to them getting into this sport?
I don't know, man. I would travel. I think I tell everybody that I know that I like have helped her that like it's worked out at my gym. I used to own a gym. Just to like cross train and travel everywhere, take fights everywhere. Like you gotta go to all the states, go out of the country, everywhere you can. So I got a couple friends right now that are doing that and they're having a blast and man, it's about experience. So what you gotta do.
Great. Akhilesh, I've got one last question. You have anything else?
No. Since I've already talked to her before,
Okay.
I'm all out of
Well,
questions.
this is not a question really, but it's a message for your many, many Indian fans because we do have access to UFC Fight Pass here, uh, which of course screens Invicta FC. So we have a lot of interaction on Invicta, and we have a lot of Indian fans of yours. So what would your message be to them? Do you ever look forward to coming to the country, maybe doing a workshop or something?
Yeah, definitely. I do seminars out here every once in a while, and I definitely, man, I like to fight everywhere, but there just ain't opportunities yet. You know what I mean? And then the ones they do have are kind of a little bit smaller. So you kind of Invicta's where it's at. Unless you're fighting UFC, Invicta's where it's at. So I'm blessed to be fighting for them, and hopefully we get big enough that we can go and fight in other countries and have a little fun. So I don't know, but I'm always open for seminars. Heck yeah.
Great. Well,
And
sorry.
I just wanted, I just wanted to ask you one thing. What are your thoughts on fighting Roxanne Modafferi? Because both are veterans, although she's not in your division. Still, both are very popular among the MMA fans. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I'm definitely down. I think she's offered before, and I've offered before, and it just has never came to happen on a card and stuff. And now, obviously, we're in different weight classes, but I'm open to fight anybody. So anybody that wants to fight, I'm down. Pay me some money, and I'll fight anybody.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. We're really lucky that we have the opportunity of viewing your fights all the time on UFC Fight Pass on Invicta. And thank you so much for talking to us. And we look forward to your next fight, the rematch with Yana Kunitskaya. And we will be tuned in to that and wishing you all the best.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you,
so
Tonya.
much.
Take care.
Thank you. Hi, Gary. This is Praveen Dabas from the MMA India show. Good. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. When somebody comes up, go on. Yes, go ahead.
So we'll start. First of all, of course, you're a legend of the UFC and other. You're a legend of the UFC and other fight promotions. And the Indian fan is really grateful that they're getting a chance to speak to you today.
You know what? I can't wait to come back to India. I was there to make a movie with Akshay and Rika.
Oh, awesome.
I think it was Kaladi de Kaladi and Barood.
Okay. Okay.
I was in India. I had a great time. I can't wait to come back.
Oh, awesome. So now you've been a huge name in both MMA and arm wrestling and amateur boxing. Look,
Yes.
Can you tell us a little about what led to the transition and evolution?
You know what? At first I thought the first thing I was in is boxing. I grew up with Muhammad Ali, watching Muhammad Ali all the time. So I thought to myself that I was supposed to be Muhammad Ali. So so I started boxing, and I became national champion, Canadian champion of boxing. I think it was 1993.
Yeah.
And then it was the best in Canada faces the best in the U.S. So, well, of course, it's me facing the best guy, David Bosto at the time. And I fought him, and I fought everybody. I beat all the Canadians. Then I went over there to face the best in the United States, and he just beat the hell out of me. I couldn't even beat him. There was nothing I could do to him. I thought to myself, man, I'm allergic to this sport because of my face. My face kept on swelling, my black eyes. Man, I can't do this. I'm allergic to it. So I decided to switch, to stop doing that. And I've been arm wrestling since I was 15 years old. Arm wrestling your dad, then you go into professional arm wrestling. A friend of mine, Phil Stafford, at the time I didn't know him, said, hey, why don't you go and join us? I said, what do you mean? I didn't know who he was. He said, well, we do professional arm wrestling. So this was at a tournament. So at one of my smallest tournaments in Canada. It was, I think, for $50, and I went down and I won that tournament. Okay. And from there, it just went on.
Right.
And then fighting.
Yeah.
No, please go on.
Sorry, go ahead. And then when I got into fighting, we were watching UFC 3 on TV, and I watched Remco Party just kill this guy with MMA in UFC 3. So then my friends started saying, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And I'm like, holy Jesus, no, I don't want to do that. Inside I was telling myself, I don't want to do that. But because I was the biggest guy in the room, I wouldn't say it out loud because I didn't want to be a coward. And these guys are pushing me, yeah, you should do that. So they got on the phone and started calling everybody because at the end of the show, the UFC, they flashed up with numbers where you can go and buy UFC paraphernalia, the shirts, the hats, the shorts. So a couple of friends of mine called it up and said, no, we don't want to buy anything. We want to get in it. We have somebody that wants to get in it. Well, I'm sure then they look around at me like, I want to get in it. Like, then that led to another number. That led to another number. By the time at the end of the night, there were 6 members. We got a hold of Art Davies. Art Davies was the promoter of the UFC. He was actually the founder of UFC and the matchmaker at the time because Bob Meyerowitz bought it from him.
Right.
So then I started, he says, okay. He says, Gary, is this Gary Goodridge? I says, yeah. And, we're talking, yeah, that's Gary Goodridge. He said, you know what? I saw you arm wrestling Cleve Dean last week. I said, I saw you. He said, you know what? You spoke well. Arm wrestling's got a place for you. So we got out the phone, and I was so scared. I'm like, oh, my God, what did we just do? Next thing you know, I'm getting a letter from the UFC. Okay, you're in UFC 8. And that's what happened. Then that started my career.
Right. And, I just wanted to also ask you, because when you got into the UFC, not many people knew about MMA, and you came primarily from a striking background. So, once you got into the UFC, did you, think about the all-round aspect? You had your guys who are from karate facing against guys who are wrestlers. So, did you have that, at that point? Did you have the, all-round, well-rounded game that, you would see in fighters now? How did things work at that point?
No, I didn't have the well-rounded game at all. I knew at striking I was strong. I knew I was going to be stronger than everybody. I just knew that. I just felt that I was going to be stronger than everybody. My first opponent was 188 pounds. Frank Abbott's guy.
Right.
And my corner told me he was racist. So they told me he was racist to get me excited for the match. Of course he's not racist. Yeah. But they wanted me to get up for the match, get angry, and they wanted to spit bullets. So I was really angry. I thought, man, this guy's a racist. I can't lose to him. I can lose to anybody else but not this guy. They told me he belonged to the KKK and all these other groups. Oh, I swear to God, they told me all this. So I just, in my mind now, I thought, I can lose to anybody else but not this guy. So we used to see him fighting on the beach, doing his thing all the time. And then before you know it, we saw him do the fireman's carry over and over and over again. So then we said, oh, that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna do this to you. So then we went back to our room and we practiced a counter, which is the counter that everybody saw. But when he fireman's carries, just wrap his arms, pinch it in your legs, and fall back and bend his wrist, And I said, oh yeah, we can do that. It's got a good submission. So we practiced that move all night, and then the next day, he does it to me, the same thing. We're fighting, and he does the same thing to me. So I already practiced it 100 times, so I knew what to do.
Right.
So just carrying that, you knocked him out, but the referee only stopped it till, I think you had to hit him 7-8 more times.
Yeah.
So,
I just got a little excited.
Yeah, were you aware? Or
no, I wasn't aware. I had no idea he was knocked out.
Okay.
I had no idea he was knocked out. I didn't know.
Akhilesh, you were going to ask something?
No, I just wanted to talk about the fight itself.
Okay. So I'll move on, or did you want to ask something else?
No, please go on.
Okay. Now, how do you see the change in rules in the UFC over the years? And, do you feel for the better? Because they've changed a lot, of course, and the headbutts and everything have gone.
Well, absolutely. They made it more user-friendly because it was, they used to have headbutts. They used to have, you could strike to the groin. You can punch somebody in the nuts. They had all these things, and doing all the, punching me on the head, that was okay. They had, no rule. So, yeah, they made it more user-friendly that everybody can watch it. Everybody still has fun, and they watch, watch it raw still. So, yes, I agree with the changes that they made. It makes it more fair for everybody and not foolish. Now they have weight classes. Back when I fought, there was no weight classes. Everybody fought. The biggest guy I ever fought was, I fought a guy 7'2" or 7'3", 380 pounds. Then I fought a guy that was 6'5", 450. I fought a lot of guys that were much, much bigger than me. But the thing about me is that how I'm heavyweight. Right now I'm 280, but when I fought I was 240. So that was over 200, so you fought everybody. Everybody over 200.
Okay. And how good did it feel to knock out Don Pride in your third meeting at Pride?
Oh man, it was amazing feeling. I felt so good because this man has beaten me twice before when I first started, and then I knocked him out so definitively, so absolutely sure. There was no discrepancy if I won or not. He went to sleep, and I was happy.
And did you plan that head kick?
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't plan it, but me and Don Fryer were walking around looking at each other for the longest while before the fight. The day before, the 2 days before, because you see him in the restaurants and stuff. So I had my group looking at him, and he looked sore. But of course, I didn't train for the match at all. I was a fill-in match for him.
Yeah.
Right, and
so I didn't train for. Yeah, go ahead.
No, please go on. Please go on.
I didn't train for the match at all, so when I could see him, every time I saw him, he looked sore getting up and sore moving. So, I was sore. I didn't train at all. So when I fought him, I said, okay, well, I only have 1 minute of gas I can only fight for 1 or 2 minutes. At the end of that, I told my guys to throw in a thing because I didn't have the cardio. He didn't look like he had the body. He looked like he was sore. So when we started fighting, we danced around a little bit. He tried to grab me and put me down on the ground. But, of course, I pushed him away. I saw his hands were really, really low. So I thought, man, I could kick him in the head and end it right now. So that's what I did, kick him in the head and end it.
Right, and, a lot of fans look back at the old Pride days with genuine interest, with affection almost. So, but, the thing that separated Pride from UFC now or other MMA organizations was because Pride had this, no holds barred kind of an attitude. So,
Yeah.
what were your experiences with Pride, and why do you think the fans now look back at Pride and say, you know what, wish we had those Pride days back?
Well, because I love Pride, and Pride was raw. It was just a raw fighting. It was just, do what you want, kick on the ground. If somebody's down, you can kick to their face, you can kneel on the ground. It was more raw. And of course, they didn't really have weight sizes. They just matched people up. It was raw. It was a raw fight. It was just as raw as you can get. The fighting was very raw.
Right.
Now, what do you have to say about the new generation, so to speak? Some of whom you did fight, like a Gegard Mousasi, who's doing really well now.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad that they're doing. I'm glad that they're doing well. I'm glad that everything is going good. I feel good when I watch my own fighters go in and fight, and I feel happy. And it's good. I love it.
And you also were in attendance.
Yeah.
You recently went to a UFC event. So how did that feel?
It felt great. Dana's always good to me. Dana White. I called him up. I said, Dana, I'm coming to this thing. Can I book 2 tickets? No problem, Gary. Anytime I always go to UFC events if they're within driving range from me. And I always call up Dana. Dana, I'm coming down. I'm going to be there. Can you send me 2 or 3 or 4 tickets? No problem, Gary. Here you go. Always been a nice guy. I love the events. It's in my blood. I can't get away from it.
Right.
Now, do you feel, especially with what you're experiencing now, that fighters' pay, first of all, should increase much more, and they should get medical coverage, benefits, etc.?
Absolutely. That's what they didn't. They did that with boxing, but they didn't give them the medical coverage and insurance. So what they did, they only gave them more money. But I believe that they should look after both. If you're signed to fight these people, then they pay you. If you're because everybody's only with one group. It's not that you can fight for UFC, you can fight for Bellator and all the other little groups. You fight for Bellator, that's all you're fighting. You fight for UFC, that's all you're fighting. They don't lend out the people. And if you're got a contract in the fighting these people, then you should be given a year's free medical insurance. And that's how it should be. For the Canadian people, it's a little easy because we have medical insurance regardless. If our heart clinks out tomorrow, we can go get new hearts the next day. That's how it is in Canada, but a lot of the other countries don't do that, so it's harder.
Yeah.
Right, and the other thing is we hear a lot about the independent contractor status of fighters. What do you think has to be done to change this? And because you need to step over the fact that the fighters are called independent contractors, so they are essentially foregoing certain luxuries that other sports have.
Independent fighters, you're talking, right? Independent fighters. Well, you know what? I believe everybody should get as much out of it as possibly can. Take as much money from the game as you possibly can, because when it's all done, it's all about the money. It's not about anything else. It's not about the show. It's not about this. It's about how much money you made and what are you going to do with that money. So I feel that people get as much money as you can, because when I fought for the least amount of money I fought for was $10,000, and I had to fight 3 guys to get $10,000. I had to win from 3 guys to get $10,000. So the thing is, get as much as you can get and keep going.
Okay. Would you? You must be aware of some of the fighters' associations and unions that are operating now. Now, what do you have to say about them, and would you, support them? What do you have to say about them?
Absolutely. I would support them. Like I said, we all need something more, and we're not getting that from, a union. Absolutely. We need the fighters need representation. Because I've been through the business, I know how dirty and how nasty it can get. a lot of people. One time I showed up for a fight, and I wasn't sure. I showed up to a fight, and I wasn't sure I was going to get paid because of the thing seemed a little not that good, not that organized. So I said to some of the people, I said, when I come to your place, you pay me the money before I fight. So they said, oh, no problem, Gary. So I got there, and I wanted cash. I didn't want no thing. I got to the fight, so they wanted to give me cash. Sorry, they wanted to give me a check. And I said, no, go cash the check. And when I got there, that's what I told them. It was like 4 days before the fight. So then I wasn't able to fight anybody. I didn't fight because I didn't have the cash. I want cash. You can't go to another country halfway around the world and then they give you a check the cash. That don't work.
Yeah.
Right. And now with you have certain regulations now which are brought into the sport, which, as you said, has made it more user friendly. What do you think? What else can be done to improve the situation that the fighters are currently in? Because when CTE initially was diagnosed, it was for NFL players. People did not know a decade ago what concussion was.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think can be done?
Well, I think that when you get knocked out, or when there's definitely brain damage, when somebody gets knocked out, and sometimes they don't need to go out. Yeah, sometimes sometimes you get hit, and you don't even know that you've been hit or you're knocked out, and there's something wrong until 2 or 3 hours later. Because many times I've had fights, and I was knocked out and still carrying on fighting. You can get knocked out like that. So I've fought like that many times. Somebody hits you, or they kick you in the head, and you don't go out,
right?
But you maintain fighting, and then after somebody's got to tell you what you did, and for you to remember the fight, you don't even remember. For you to see the fight, what you did, like, oh man, I don't remember any of that because you're out. So
right.
People, they need to get going with protecting the fighters more. Absolutely, they need a union to go in place to help people, with what's going on and what has went on, so that things get better. It's not the way how it's set up right now. Only the promoters make the money, and you can't. Things don't work that way.
Right.
Everybody's got to make the money. We all got to be. Right now, promoters are making 98% of the money and feeding 2% to the fighters.
Right.
It's got to be a little more fair than that.
Yeah, well, most of the unions and associations are aiming for 50%, which we also feel is much more fair.
Yeah. I don't think they'll ever get 50%. They'll never get 50%. But that's you can start there. They'll never. Those fights will never get 50%. They'll never get 50%. Boxing didn't even get 50%, and they were paying. What were they paying? Like $50 million for one fight. If boxers, because MMA has taken over boxing. Like the boxing fans, when you go to a UFC event, everything is full. If they got 5,000 tickets, it's all sold. They got 100,000 tickets, it's all sold. I've been I fought in a place where there was over 100,000 people there. So if this is all full, how much are you selling the tickets for? Let's say you're selling for $10 a ticket. You know how much money that is?
Yeah.
So are we getting paid proper? No, we're not. Do things need to change? Absolutely. Are we ever going to get paid enough? I mean, they get paid a lot more than what I did because that's just the way it goes. But they're still far behind on what they should get. It is not fair.
Right. And also, now, do you think there is enough awareness about head injuries?
What?
Do you think there is enough awareness about head injuries, about concussions in the fight sport today?
No, there's not enough. I think everybody knows it and are aware of it, but they don't really. Every promoter tries not to talk about it, or not to tell people about it, or not to do anything about it. But the UFC's got some things in place, but I think it's still far behind. Because I'm not able to work. I can't work now. Here I am, I'm 50 years old. I can't work. I can't hold a job. I'm on pills every day to have a way of life. It's not rare. And where did I get that? In fighting.
All right.
You know what I understand? So people shouldn't be like me. I shouldn't be living off with a little bit of money I have from the fighter, because of course you don't get enough money. You understand? Even if they pay the people today, like I said, I fought for $10,000. $10,000, what's that? It's no money.
Right.
When you got to pay your trainers, your sparring partners, they got to kick the piss out of you every day. It is terrible.
Right.
Do you also feel the fight promotions should offer financial advice to the fighters?
Absolutely, 100%. That's what they were doing with they were offering financial advice to the boxers, because boxers were coming out there, they'd fight for $50 million today, and then they'd be broke a year from now. And financial advice and things to do, 100%. When this is 2016, they gotta help people out with this stuff, because you're talking to people that came from nothing, and all of a sudden they have a few $1 million in their pocket. Of course, they need financial advice and financial direction.
Yeah, because, like you said, we've seen a lot of these cases where people have made a lot of money but not known how to invest or use it and grow it. And
absolutely, 100%. Yes, sir.
So, also, can you tell us a little about how your book came into being, The Gatekeeper, Fighting Life of Gary, Big Daddy Goodridge? Can you tell us a little about how
it came into being?
Yeah.
You know what? I was sitting down and I just felt like I didn't do enough. It was after my fighting career. I just felt that I didn't do enough. And I still feel like I haven't done enough. I still want to do another book. But I just feel that it's not enough. I can still do more. I just wanted to help people and what I did and how I was and how things went on. How promoters try to rip you off. I just had a lot to share, and I wanted to share it.
Right, and I also wanted to ask you this: with with the information you have, with your experience, have you thought about traveling and giving seminars to the fighters about the dangers of the sport? Because almost all of them concentrate on getting into the sport, but never really think about what the implications are once they're done fighting.
You know what? No, I just came back from Serbia. Maybe the last thing I traveled to. I just traveled to Serbia. I was over there for I think 10 days, giving a seminar, and I did touch on the downside of fighting. I did about a day with the downside of fighting, and the rest was just fighting. But yes, I would love to do that. Tell me how to do that, and I will do it. Point me in the direction, and I will do it.
All right.
So, Akhilesh, anything else?
Yeah, Gary, you said you've been to India. We'd love to, bring you down to India sometime soon. So, do you have any message, for the fighters, especially more than the fans, because they are the ones that are going through what you've done earlier in your career.
Yeah, what I have to say is the fighters that for fighting for small organizations, be careful with what you do, because these small organizations, what they do is they pay you according to who comes in the door. They don't pay you according to what you're worth. So they'll tell you that they're going to give you $50,000. They're going to tell you that they're going to give you X number of dollars. And when you get to the fight, because the show didn't do good, then they want to change the price then. So make sure that's how you get your money. Do not take checks from absolutely anybody. It's all a cash business, because you don't want to go away and take cash, and then the fight was in another country. So how do you fight against that? And that should come to your manager. Have a manager to go over all those things with you, and they look after that for you. This way you don't have to do it yourself, because when you do it for yourself, there's a lot to do. And before a fight, there's a lot of preparation, and then you can't be worried about payments and all that. All that stuff goes to your manager.
Right.
So what I would have to then say to them is, you know, keep fighting. You know, it's a fight. It's a fight and financially, it's a fight. And when you get in the ring, but once everything is sorted out, it's very easy. It's very simple. So keep going. Don't quit, and just have fun. You know.
Great. And before we sign off, can you tell us a little about your experience on shooting the movies with Akshay Kumar?
Oh man, the guy was just Akshay Kumar was an amazing guy. I really liked him. We sat down and we had lunch together, and he spoke very good English, and we were okay. We had you know what? I really enjoyed it. I wish I could do more.
Great. So
anytime anybody wants me,
Okay.
anytime anybody wants me in India to do a movie, I am all for it.
Great. Well, we will put the word out there. And having said that, it's been a pleasure talking to you, sir. A living legend. And we hope to have many more such conversations. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you from the MMA India show.
No problem. I want everybody to watch Barood and Explosive. Barood, yes.
Yes.
And Kaladi the Kaladi.
All right.
Okay. Great. We will put that word out there, and they will see it in a different perspective now, these films.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
you,
Gary.
sir.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Anytime you need me, you know my number.
Of course. Thank you, Gary. Have a good day.
All right. No problem. No problem. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay, and you're back with the MMA India show, and me, your host, Praveen Dabas, and Indian MMA guru, Akhilesh Ganavarapu. We had a great chat with Tonya Evinger, which you just saw, and a great chat with the UFC legend, Gary Goodridge. You just heard. What a great guy Gary is. No?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to like sit back and kind of take the phenomenon that he was and still is in, because you know he's a veteran in UFC, veteran in Pride, just one of the good guys in the business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the predicament that he's going through, you know, kind of an eye opener for all the fighters in the sport.
Yeah, but you know his love of telling the stories, you know, that he's been through, which is what the fights have become, you know, reminds me of like, you know, an Indian film star, you know, one of the legends or the bigger character actors who have been around and who, you know, love talking about all the films and, you know, us zamane mein aisa aur us film pe humne aise kiya tha. You know, it reminded me of that, the enthusiasm with which they talk about, you know, like the fights or the films that they were involved in some time. But for them, you know, even though what I found really amazing is he's going, you know, through a tough time, and you know his memory is not what it used to be, but he still remembered everything. There was not one thing we spoke about which he didn't remember. Right?
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, if you look at his Twitter feed, he keeps reminiscing about his friends, the thing that happened in the past. He just tweeted something about Bas Rutten, an interview that he did with Bas.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's one of those people that kind of, you know, his love for the fight game, it was taken away too soon, according to him even. So, you know, yeah, it's one of those sad stories, but again, an eye-opener for everyone else in the sport.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it sad because I don't think he feels sorry for himself, which is great, you know, because he's been such a big name and legend, like one of the veterans and starters of the game. But he feels also like he has a responsibility almost to tell other people so it doesn't happen to them, which is what is great, I feel.
Yeah, concussions until as we even discussed a decade ago, 10 years ago, people did not even know what a concussion was. When NFL players started doing weird stuff, and you had a deeper insight into brain damage, even that was when people looked at it as something skeptical. They thought it was something that was being made up, which was not real. But the more people kind of were aware of what brain damage is, what concussions are, what CTE is, the more they started understanding the implications of various sports. So yeah, I mean, one of the biggest names in the history. One of the good guys. He still has good contacts in the UFC. He just flew down for the last UFC event. He was there in person, so he still has a long. I think a lot to give for the fight game.
Yeah, and amazing for Indian fans that he's been in like 2 Hindi films with Akshay Kumar. So that's great trivia, so to speak. So there's been quite a few.
Yeah, maybe now they can go back and watch the entire movie.
So he was here before Tyrone Woodley, actually.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So quite a few, hopefully more UFC fighters coming into more Hindi films. So, okay, getting back to, or rather starting on the preview for UFC Sacramento. Of course, one of the prelim fights we have spoken about is Cole Miller versus Hirota. Cole has been on the show. Of course, not necessarily talking about the fight so much, but the problems he was facing around it. And hopefully he will put those problems behind him and have a clear mind when he gets into the octagon.
Right. And he also recently, talked about how much blood he spilled on the octagon mat. So he clearly has on his shoulder. He clearly feels that he is not given what he's owed by the UFC management. And as he told us, it is his last final fight of his existing contract. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, now coming to the first fight on the main card, Alan Jouban, and very interesting nickname that he has, Brahma.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
I said the first fight on the main card, Alan Jouban versus Mike Platinum Perry, but Alan Jouban has a very interesting nickname, which is Brahma.
Yes. So it's a very interesting fight as well, because Perry is undefeated. While Alan, the last fight that he had, I thought he faced one of the top prospects in Bilal Mohammed. I've always liked Bilal, but that was a very decisive victory. The decision victory that he had, he was clearly winning the fight, so it was a very decisive finish. But it's a very interesting matchup. One guy who recently came to the UFC, still young, is about 25, while you have another guy who's a veteran. Both are very well rounded. One guy, exceptional in jiu-jitsu, training under Eddie Bravo, while the other guy is no Makaida. He has, background in wrestling, background in jiu-jitsu. And one guy, again, Alan, coming back to Alan, he's Muay Thai specialist. So I feel it's a very interesting style of clash of styles. I see it going Alan's way, though, because of his experience, just because of the supremacy that he has on the ground. If you're training under someone like Eddie Bravo and you have a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, that goes a long way. And 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, known as one of the best out there in the world today. So it's a very interesting clash of styles, very interesting matchup because of backgrounds of both the fighters. But I see it going Alan's way this time around.
Well, so you're predicting that Mike Perry is going to finally lose because he's won. He's 9-0 and all of them by KO.
Right. I mean, he has very good. As I said about striking, he has very good striking. But at the end of the day, I see it going down to the ground game of both the fighters. And when you go to the ground against someone of the level of someone from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, it's not going to end well.
Yeah, but it has to get to the ground for that. Do you think Mike Perry will allow it to get to the ground? And what if he finishes it before it does? This
is where I see experience playing, a big factor. It's You talk about striking, you talk about, if you even bring in someone of the stature of Cody Garbrandt, the people that, when he was matched up against someone like Almeida, people thought, okay, striking. But, if it goes against someone like, Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber, who are exceptional when it comes to the experience side of things, it makes for an entire different fight. So I see it, playing a huge factor, the experience of his opponent being a big factor in this fight.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Mike Perry. तो एक साइड बेट 100 की लगी, हाँ?
Right. So again, this is a very well matched up opponent. Let's see how it goes. It's if he manages to get the victory, it's going to be big for him going forward.
Well, Mike Perry reminds me of Robbie Lawler. The way he just stalks his opponent and stands and hands down is just ready to pulverize him. It's like he's not really afraid of what the opponent is going to do, and it's not going to affect him. He just has this single-mindedness that he knows that if he lands a couple, it's going to knock the other guy out. So that's what I'm really impressed with. But coming now to Faber versus Pickett, of course, we just recently spoke to Uriah Faber. What a great guy again, and this being his last fight as of now, he is, of course, retiring.
Right.
Young, some might say, but again, in the fight game, 37, 38 is not that young. But of course, he still does have quite a few fights in him, but a lot of other interests as well. Such an amazing, all-rounded fighter versus a tough guy, Brad Pickett, but who lost his last fight.
Right. So I think we even touched that fight with Alcantara, Pickett's last fight, where, as we discussed, he just did not have his guard up. He left himself open. He had a lot of holes in his defensive game, and Alcantara managed to connect with a spinning back elbow, if I remember correctly. So, but again, Pickett, he's from the American top team, trains with killers. But, you look at someone like Uriah Faber, stylistically, the fight favors Uriah Faber, sheerly because of his exemplary, defense and the way in which he shoots. Always looks for a takedown and always looks for, the openings that the opponent shows. And as we discussed, Pickett has a lot of holes in his defensive game, which I think Uriah is going to exploit.
Yeah, well, we wish him all the best, because it'd be great if he, ends his career on an upswing with the win, and he deserves it, because he's had such an amazing career, and he'll always be the California kid. He has that kind of course, face and persona as well, which is always, youngish, youthful, whatever you want to call it. So, which is amazing, and we had a great chat with him, and so I guess Faber is going to take it. I think he's going to be a little too strong for Pickett. Now, coming to the next...
and the other thing is, so I just wanted to add one last thing. It's always interesting to see these kind of fights, when fighters who are on, their last leg, so to say, come into the octagon, because his last fight against Jimmy Rivera, we talked to Uriah Faber before that, and he knew about Rivera being a dangerous opponent. He knew his strengths, the way in which he keeps his distance using leg kicks, the way he has very good takedown defense. But Uriah said, what, man, I'm not really scared. I think I have what it takes to finish him. But after the fight, you could see the spark going in Uriah Faber once that the victory was handed to Jimmy. I think so. This is one thing, you talk about fighters where you say the spark, he still doesn't have the spark in him. That kind of movement, I thought, happened with Uriah after his fight with Jimmy Rivera. So I think, it's, it's his last fight. It's in his hometown. He would want to go in there. He would want to impress the fans one last time, go out with a bang. But you never know. Pickett, one of the best strikers in that division. As I said, trains with killers at ADT. So, has a lot of defensive holes, holes in his defensive game. If Uriah can exploit them, it's all going to be done and dusted within the second round. But there's always that factor where you say, Uriah Faber looks like a completely different person. Does he still have what it takes to get the victory? So, and he's coming off two dominant losses, against Cruz and now against Rivera. Yeah. So, we need to wait and see if I can finally notch that victory and go out on a high.
But the fight I'm really, really excited about as well is Northcutt versus Gall, because they're both young, upcoming fighters with a lot of ambition. Gall, of course, just finished CM Punk, and he had one more win before that. Northcutt, I think, is 2-1 in the UFC.
Yes, I think 3-1.
3-1. Okay.
Is it 2-1? 3-1 or 2-1? Yeah.
Okay. Either. So, and it's funny. Gall seems to be more from just getting into the background. It's like a working class background. Northcutt seems like, I'm just not being judgmental, but seems a little more like he comes from a slightly more privileged background. Though both, especially Northcutt has been doing, karate since he was a little kid. I think he started when he was 5. So they've both been following it. Gall seems, I don't know why, a tougher guy. Of course, he's training now at TriStar, and still roughing it out. There's something about Gall which is, a little rough, which I really like. It's that guy who's taken, opportunity with both hands, come from nowhere, just, called out CM Punk, and now called out Northcutt. And he takes guts, but he's going places. And personally, I see Gall taking this fight.
Yeah, UFC has selected 2 stars that could take them into the future, the future Ronda Rousey and the future Conor McGregor, so to say. And those are Paige Van Zandt and Sage Northcutt. It makes sense for UFC to do that. It makes sense. I mean, you say he looks privileged, which is
like I said, I wasn't being judgmental, but
but it's correct. I mean, if you look at what UFC has done, the UFC marketing team, the UFC as a promotion has done with Sage Northcutt, they have always tried to push him. They've always tried to make him look like this phenomenal athlete, which he is. One of the most dominant athletes who are coming up or stepping up. Sage is still very, very young. As you said, has been practicing karate since he was very, very small. He along with his sister. Yeah. So, going into this fight, I mean, you can understand why UFC has been doing what they're doing, but on the other side, his fight with Barberena kind of exposed how green Sage Northcutt is, to say, when his opponent is really either has really good ground game or is more experienced than Sage Northcutt.
Yeah.
Then we talk about someone like Mickey Gall. Gall used to train out of 3 gyms, including the Miller's gym. They're very notoriously tough, and they're very well known for just improving the all-around aspect of a fighter, especially the ground game. So Gall, has very, very, very solid jiu-jitsu. The Achilles heel, per se, of Sage Northcutt, as we've seen. It's interesting because both are very young, both are future prospects. UFC is treating one as the golden boy, the poster boy for the company in the future, while Gall is coming off a dominant victory against CM Punk. But you match the opponents that they faced, right? So you see what Northcutt has done. You see the amount of the caliber of opponents that he has faced, and you see the caliber of Mickey Gall's opponents. There's not too much that you can differentiate. But Gall is tough. Trains out of 3 different gyms. Sage Northcutt used to train in TriStar. He has his own training regime. He has his father that looks after his training. I mean, and from what we have seen of Gall, at least the very small amount that we have seen of Gall in his fight against CM Punk, he immediately ducked a right and took Punk down with ease, with utmost ease.
Yeah.
If he managed to do that with Sage Northcutt, if he manages to avoid the striking game of Sage and takes it to the ground, we have seen Sage Northcutt is very green on the ground. The interesting thing is, against his fight with Barberena, we even saw that the submission wasn't locked in completely, but Sage tapped anyways. He got scared. He got kind
Flustered.
of
Yeah.
he got flustered. The moment you take someone like that to the ground who has no realistic idea how to get out of that predicament, you start getting scared. Then you eventually give up.
Yeah.
So if Gall managed to do something like that with Northcutt, then it's going to be an early victory, an easy victory for Mickey.
Yeah. And what's interesting also is, like we rightly said, these guys are two upcoming stars. And the UFC has pitted them against each other, which means one of them who loses is going to see his star falling slightly, even if it's temporarily.
I think it's a win-win situation for UFC because if Sage Northcutt wins, He's the future. He's the poster boy for UFC within the next 5 years. If Mickey Gall wins, Mickey will be riding on two, I won't say dominant victories, but high-profile victories.
Yeah.
CM Punk, although he's not a dominant opponent, he's a high-profile
opponent. Yeah.
Right. So if Gall manages to do that, then UFC can obviously go with him as the next prospect in the division per se. So I see this as a win-win situation for the promotion. But I see Mickey Gall, notching up a victory.
Same. But like we said, if Gall wins and Northcutt loses, that takes a lot of the spark off Northcutt, because Gall is still an upcoming fighter.
Right, but the thing that people seem to forget about Northcutt is he's very, very young. He's not even in his 20s.
Yeah.
Right, so UFC still has time, a lot of time with Sage Northcutt to build.
But 3-2 will not be a very good record then going ahead.
It won't be, but still, I mean, you can always bring in those easy fights. You can always get that momentum going, and you can always send him to really, really good gyms to train. Because right now, what is happening with Sage is a lot of gyms are kind of averse to getting him because of his father, because he seems to get involved a lot in his training camps.
Yeah.
But again, he's very young. He's on a right learning curve.
Yeah.
Even with a loss, I think with Mickey, I think Sage can always go back to the drawing board, can always go back to the gym, can always get better.
Well, coming to the main fight of the night, Paige Van Zandt versus Michelle Watterson, the Karate Hottie versus 12 Gauge. Two, of course, very good-looking women who are pushed not only for their fight skills, but their looks as well. So, it's going to be unfortunate seeing one of them beaten up, but that is the fight game, and that's what they joined for. Again, Watterson hasn't fought, I think, for a year and a half almost.
Yes,
because of her
injuries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Paige Van Zandt, of course, coming off of a win off of Beck Rawlings, before which she had that loss against Rose Namajunas, which was she hung in there. She lost. She was beaten up badly, but she hung in there. She did show a lot of heart, not giving up at any point. And her last fight, Beck Rawlings, did show, very good comeback skills, that kick to knock her out. It was, and this is a really good and interesting fight for both of them, I think.
Yeah, so, going even into Namajunas' fight, I thought Paige already showed good heart, especially against Felice Herring, who is, again, a veteran in the fight game. So, this will, and people don't really realize how good of a fighter Michelle Watterson is because she has been out for so long. She was the Invicta Atomweight champion for a long time before eventually losing and moving to UFC.
Yeah.
And I see this primarily as a fight between two of elite. Maybe not elite, but one with really high level striking and the other with really, really good striking as well. So basically two really good strikers going at it. The one thing that Paige Van Zandt has shown in the past is she's really, really good in the clinches. with her vicious knees, the way she locks up, and with those short elbows that she has. She has proved in the past that she can hang with the best. Rose Namajunas, one of the best wrestlers in the division, so that was a very difficult fight going into the fight itself. I thought UFC kind of threw Paige into the deep end right away, just because of what kind of a grappler Namajunas is and how big of a competitor she is. So I think this fight is more of a really interesting clash of styles between two really good strikers. Paige, again, similar story as Sage Northcutt, had that one decisive loss, then notched up a victory, looking to get back on winning ways, build a streak. But she's going up against a former Invicta UFC champion. So if Paige manages to keep the fight standing, take things where she is more dominant, for example, the clinches. Michelle Waterson isn't that big, so when it comes to the clinches, Paige will have the advantage. And we've also seen how Paige has that highlight reel kind of a finish that she can get out of anywhere.
Yeah.
She has proved that in the last fight. So I see it going probably to a decision. I don't see either one ending the other. But I might have to lean more towards Paige Van Zandt. Although I don't want to go against Michelle Waterson, knowing what she has done in the past and her experience in the fight game.
Yeah.
But I think Paige Van Zandt is clearly the bigger fighter of the two. Waterson used to fight in the atomweight division, so I think Paige can take things into the predicaments where she is stronger in. So I see it going down to a decision, but getting the decision for Paige.
Well, a very interesting fight, nevertheless, very hard to call at this stage. Of course, a victory for either is really going to, push them at the stage they're at. If Paige Van Zandt wins, she's going to get, I think, a really tough opponent after this. Because if you look at the top 5 in the strawweight division, all are killers. You have, who are you going to match her up with? Claudia Gadela, very, very bad matchup for Paige. She'll easily get squashed. You have your KKs, you have Joanna. Obviously, she's not going to get a title shot with a victory, but throwing her in the top 5, Carolina.
Yeah, but throwing her against one of the top 5 is a really tough fight.
Yeah, but if she wins after a win like this, it's hard to still protect her.
If she wins, but you can still give her a top 10 opponent. Probably,
like who?
Michelle Waterson is a really good opponent again, but she's coming off a long layoff.
Yeah.
So it's easier to give Paige a top 10 opponent.
So this is the top 10 opponent. That's what I mean. This is the top 10 opponent that she's getting.
Yes, but again, as I said, Michelle Waterson is coming off a long layoff.
Yeah.
You do not know, because we have seen what ring rust can do to a fighter.
She is, but she's a very solid fighter. So what I'm trying to say is, if Paige Van Zandt does win, she would need a much tougher fight to take her ahead. She can't just keep floating on fighting certain fighters.
Yes, but you have seen what happened when Paige was thrown against Rose Namajunas.
Yes, I remember, but that's what I mean is, sooner or later you have to give her those fights again. You can't keep...
Sooner or later, yes. Right now, I think that's a very, very bad matchup for Paige.
Yeah.
I think she needs at least 1 or 2 more fights to get a top 5 opponent.
Well, I think a win for Waterson would really, of course, propel her back into, the front of the line. Like you said, of course, she's a smaller fighter. She used to be an atomweight. But really amazing skills, especially ground skills as well. So, interesting matchup. Let's see what happens with it. You, of course, have said Paige Van Zandt. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to enjoy the fight. If I'm able to see it, that is, since I'm going for a shoot tomorrow into the mountains. So hopefully, the place where I'm staying will have Sony ESPN, or I'm going to have to,
try to stream.
Well, no, I never do that. So I will just have to find a way to see it, or the replay or something or the other. So we'll find a way.
Yeah, and I also wanted to bring this in because we are talking about two fighters who fought in Invicta.
Yeah.
There's another Invicta fighter who's going to make her debut in Irene Aldana, Mexican fighter. One of the best 135ers. She's going to fight Leslie Smith. I've always been a big fan of Irene. I've always been a big fan of Alexa Grasso. I think Invicta is, the promotion breeds some of the best upcoming fighters on the planet. So I'm really, looking forward to see how Irene
and
does in
Leslie
the first
Smith
fight.
is a tough fighter as well.
She is. So the interesting fun fact is, you might have heard about her cauliflower ear exploding in a fight against Jessica Ai, and she wanted to keep going. She did not want the doctor to come and stop the fight. Her ear was hanging,
Ouch.
and she said, "You know what? Let me fight. I'm okay." So she is a very, very tough competitor. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. Irene against Leslie.
Yeah, and trivia, the last we saw of Leslie Smith was actually in the Invicta Octagon, doing the Joe Rogan job of, doing the after-fight interviews and everything. And she didn't seem very comfortable because she was wearing heels inside the Octagon, so it wasn't very easy to walk and everything. And we sent her a message about it also, which she smiled at. So, so it'll be interesting to see her out of her heels again.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to their fight, foremost because it's on the prelims card.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how Irene does on the big stage.
Yeah. So, well, having said that, that's a wrap up of the fights we're going to be talking about. And we look forward to seeing UFC Sacramento, especially because it's Uriah Faber's last fight. And, a lot of really good fights on this card, especially, the main card and, some really good fights with known fighters on the prelims. So we look forward to seeing them all. Until next time, this is Praveen Dabas and Akhilesh Ganavarapu saying thank you for joining us once again. And right now it's good night. So we've been working very hard. Right now it's good night, but you will probably see this in the day. Cheers.